We were just talking for a few minutes. Welcome to everybody. Talking for a few minutes about what would be the continuation of this class. I love getting people's input. There were a few different ideas. When we finish, hi, Robert. When we finish
Hello.
learning the Psalms of the week, we have left today is going to be Thursday, and then we'll have Friday and then Shabbat. When we finish that, we will move to finish this year. We'll round it off with favorite prayers like Aleinu, Adon Olam, Matovu. I don't know. Well, I want to hear from people what they consider their favorite prayers. So I hope people will. I'll start with ones that I pick, and I hope people will let me know what they want, and then I'll find. Then maybe each one could be singing. That would be kind of cool if we could find one, because then we could do a little singing. And then for next year, we have two topics on the table. One of them is the villains of the Tanakh, meaning the negative personalities, to delve into each one. And at least my personal, not goal, what's the word? My personal
Preference?
I don't know. What?
Preference?
No. My personal challenge would be to raise them up and show other sides of that person. So that's one. And the other one would be Judy called the underdog. So it's a cute name. I'm not sure we'll use that, but underdogs in the sense that they're less well known. So we'll find a good name for it. But those were the two. And I would love to do both of them, honestly. We'll start with one, and that'll be next year's topic unless something better comes along. Okay. Wonderful. Time to learn about Mizmor, the psalm that we say on Thursdays. Who knows which psalm we say on Thursdays?
81.
81, not a trick question. Great, 81. Okay, let's first read it. It's interesting. I didn't find out exactly who Asaph is, actually. I don't know if somebody else, I looked a little bit, I didn't get that far. La Menatseach, for the conductor, Al HaGitit. I have a cousin whose daughter's name is Gitit, on a musical instrument from Gat. So Gitit is a type of musical instrument that they used to do in Gat. I don't know if anybody here has been to Israel since they created the Museum for Musical Instruments. I don't remember. Museum na Musica, maybe it's called. It's in Jerusalem in Kikar HaMuzika. Judy, we see your ear, but that's about it. Judy Stieglitz. Judy? Oh, she doesn't hear us. Okay. The Kikar HaMuzika is this little square where there's a stage and where people can sit and listen to, they can sit and buy food. There's also little restaurants. And Judy, we were looking at your ear. Oh, she got off. Never mind. And you can listen to concerts. They have concerts. And also there's this Museum HaMuzika. I went there with some of my grandchildren. And it was interesting. It's all different. Any aspect of Jewish music that you could imagine, including many, many different musical instruments that I had never seen or heard of before. So they might even have this gitit, this musical instrument from Gat, le'asap. So remember what we said, le David, it doesn't mean that it's for David, it means it's actually written by David. People remember that? So this one, oh, welcome back, Judy. This one is written by somebody named Asaph. And again, if somebody has time to find out who that is, I didn't spend that much time on it. Let me read it to you in English. Sing joyously to God. God is our strength. Sound the shofar to the God of Jacob. Take up a song and play the drum, a sweet harp and a lute. See already how many musical instruments we have in here. I don't know why on Thursdays. Remember, the last few Mizmorim have been a little harsher, if you remember. So this feels like a switch. Blow the shofar on the new moon, the set time of our New Year festival. So I want to tell you, this pasuk is what we're going to spend time on. Tik'u b'chodesh shofar b'keser liyom chagenu. This is the Mizmor. It's not only said on Thursdays, it's also the one that's dedicated for Rosh Hashanah because of this pasuk. I guess we recite it on Rosh Hashanah. Tik'u b'chodesh shofar. So chodesh can mean in a month, or it can mean Rosh Chodesh. So Rosh Hashanah is also Rosh Chodesh. It's the first day of the month of
Tishrei.
Tishrei. We don't bless the new moon, and we don't say, well, we do say Ya'aleh v'yavo actually, but we don't say Ya'aleh v'yavo liyom Rosh Chodesh hazeh. We say Ya'aleh v'yavo liyom hazikaron hazeh, because it being Rosh Hashanah, that takes over and precedence for it also being Rosh Chodesh. So we often forget that Rosh Hashanah is also a Rosh Chodesh. So tik'u b'chodesh shofar. We blow the tkiyat shofar. That is what we call it. But keser yom chagenu. This is interesting. The word keser we're going to spend time on. Yom chagenu is the day of our holiday or rejoicing or festival. What festival is called Chag?
Isn't Chag Hamatzot?
Yes, but yes, that's correct. The three Chagim, the three festivals, the pilgrimage. But there's one festival that is referred to as Chag. Anybody here know?
That'd be Sukkot. I'm just guessing.
Sukkot, good guess. Yes, it is Sukkot. Sukkot has an extra level of joy, more than Pesach, at least in the Torah. And it's of the three, it's called Chag. So even though you could say that this has to do with Rosh Hashanah, you could, but a lot of commentaries actually understand it as referring to Sukkot, and we will get to that in a few minutes. Kichot l'Yisrael, who it is statute for Israel, a law by the God of Jacob. It's so interesting. Chot l'Yisrael. Yaakov, Jacob has two names, Yaakov and Israel. They both can be found in verse 5. And that's a whole other teaching. I don't know if we'll get to that. That when Yisrael is used, when Yaakov is used, sometimes Beit Yaakov, like Bilam, refers to the women. I don't think this particular one, but it also is something we've seen in many of our Mizmorei Tehillim, that there's a balance between the two parts of the pasuk. Edut b'Hosef Shemo. He made it a remembrance of Yosef, b'tzeito al Eretz Mitzrayim, when he was tzeito, he went out. Where did he come out of?
Mitzrayim.
Well, yes, but he only came out of Mitzrayim after he died.
Right.
So b'tzeito, you could say in parentheses, what's missing from the prison. When he went out of the prison, and what did he do? He ruled over Eretz Mitzrayim. And understood languages, I will understand, or he, in this case, it's as if he's speaking, that the language I didn't understand, I will now understand. So we'll get to that. But what's strange about Yosef's name here? Whoever reads Hebrew, you need to read Hebrew for it.
There is a hay in there.
There's a hay in there. When did we ever see Yosef written Yehosef? Like we have seen Yonatan written as Yehonatan. And if you look at it, Yud and a Hey, basically it's making God's name there.
Right. It adds some godliness to his name.
It adds godliness. Perfect. We'll get to that too. God says, I'm on verse 7, I freed his shoulder from the burden, relieved his hands from the cooking pot. So we're not going to get to everything, but not clear each pasuk what it refers to. In Egypt, you called out in distress and I freed you. So this feels very relevant now because we're reading the story of the Exodus from Egypt. With thunder, I answered your secret cries, though I foresaw your rebellion at the waters of Meribah. So this does seem to take us into Mitzrayim and out of Mitzrayim. May Meribah, what's that? Anybody remember? The waters of argument. What was that?
The people were crying to Moshe that they wanted water.
Right. And that is referred to as Mei Meribah, the place where they had arguments with Moshe. Shma Ami, listen, my people, I will give you a warning. Israel, if you would just listen to me, that's always what God says. Let there be among you no foreign God. To an alien God, do not bow down. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. That sounds very much like
The first commandment.
The first commandment. So look how many pieces are wrapped up in this beautiful little mizmor. And hopefully next time you say it, which is tomorrow, actually, if you're davening, maybe just say it. Maybe take it on yourself to always, if you don't daven the full davening, always say the mizmor, the psalm of the day. I am the God, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Open wide your mouth with prayer. I will fulfill whatever you ask. That's beautiful. But my people did not heed my voice, and Israel turned away from me. So I left them to follow their heart's delusions. I let them pursue their own plans. If only my people would listen to me, then Israel would go in my ways. In a second, I would defeat their enemy. That Israel would go in my ways. In a second, I would defeat their enemies, turn my hand against their oppressors. Those who hate God may lie to God, but their punishment is eternal. God who feeds Israel with the finest wheat, chelev. So chelev can mean the finest, choicest fats, but it also, if there's no nikud, it could be chalav. And I will satisfy you with honey from the rock. It's interesting that it ends with something that looks like chalav, chalav udvash. So Israel, the land of Israel, chalav udvash. But there's another reference to it that I will get to. Okay. What do people think of the psalm? Any thoughts before we go forward?
A question about the use of the shofar and the Rosh Hashanah connection. What does that have to do with Thursday, with Yom HaMishiach?
Oh, what does that have to do with Thursday? That's a great question. No, it's not that it has to do with Thursday. It's that they picked it for Thursday for one reason, but it's also a Rosh Hashanah one.
Okay.
I don't think that Thursday and Rosh Hashanah is the connecting part. It's the content.
So
let's look and see if Thursday is the fifth word. So, it's a little loose, but remember we started checking if it's the fifth word has God's name. So if you look, it says Lamnatseach is 1, Al-Hagitit has a hyphen is 2, La-Asaf is 3, Harninu is 4, and Leilohim is 5. So God's name is in the fifth. Or you could say, if you say the first pasuk is an introduction, remember we said that, like David Mizmor is an introduction, and we didn't count it. So you could start from the second verse, Harninu, Lelohim, Uzenu, Hariu, Lelohei, Yaakov. So again, the fifth word would have God's name in it. And remember, what a modern commentary suggested that perhaps, even though most people don't agree with that, but it's beautiful that she found this lovely symmetry that on the Mizmor on the first day has God's name in the first word, and then the second day in the second word, or it's a little loose how you do it, but it is a beautiful concept. Whether they picked it for that is very unclear, but lovely that you found it. Maybe, they were deciding between two and they said, hey, let's use this one. This one works better. Okay. We'll end in the end with Psalm songs. I'm not going to read it right now. Okay. Right. I have first a didactic explanation of this. I went through 929 and picked all sorts of explanations from the Hebrew and from the English. It was a lot of fun to do that. The only hard part is that 929 English is not supported anymore. So I had to find a way to get to that Tehillim. It doesn't, if you click on Tehillim, it doesn't get anywhere. They say it's not supported. I don't know why they put so much effort and time into it. It's so sad for me, but that's the way it is. So who is Asaph? Oh, look at that. He does have it in here. Asaph is a composer of several psalms, a patriarch of a family of singers in the temple. Cool. The psalm was written by Asaph, read a song of the day in Musaf prayer on Rosh Hashanah in the temple. That makes sense, because not only does it refer to Rosh Hashanah, but also it refers to God saying, if you would only listen to me. So when we crown God as king, that makes sense that God is giving us a message about how we should act. Everybody with me on that? It is a psalm of wisdom. That's the genre that they call it. It's interesting. Did people feel that was a psalm of wisdom? Any thoughts about that? No thoughts. Okay. The psalm contains teachings and wise advice and is meant to instruct people on how to live a godly life. Okay?
Mhm.
Right, that it is, how to live a godly life. It has that in there. Asaph speaks about Rosh Hashanah, the traditional blowing of the shofar, but also Asaph celebrates the end of the Israelites' encampment in Egypt, which according to tradition took place on Rosh Hashanah. That's interesting. Does that mean that it took 6 months or 7 to get to Sinai? I was not familiar with that. When I read that, I wasn't sure. But there's a tradition that it took place on Rosh Hashanah. Maybe it did actually take that long for them to cross the Yam Suf and get to Har Sinai. In the first part, the psalmist calls on the people of Israel, encouraging them to sing aloud and make joyful news for God. Play musical instruments. So now I'm going to tell you the different instruments. The musical instruments are gitit is a stringed instrument, perhaps from the city of Gat, as we said. A tof is a drum or tambourine. Remember, what is a tof, Miriam?
Or drum.
Yes, but it's a timbrel. It's specifically a timbrel. A kinor, which in modern day is a violin. A small handheld harp played with a plectrum, which is a pick. A nevel, a large handheld lyre played by plucking with fingers. So nevel in modern day is, anybody know? It's a harp. I was just at a women's gathering, actually created through Chabad, and they had a harpist. Harpist, is that how you say it? A woman playing a harp. Was so beautiful. I love music from a harp. And is it always played by a woman? Are there male harpists? I've only seen women play it.
Male harper.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes,
Well, I wonder why that is. I don't know. It's the first time I ever thought of that. Okay.
I call him a harper and she's a harpist.
That's how you get the name Harper. Got it. Harper, which can be a woman or a man. Okay. Shofar is, as we know, a ram's horn. And okay. That is so interesting. Verse 10 says, let no strange God be within you. So people use this when they wanted to protect themselves from foreign gods. And let me just see if there's anything else.
Well, you had said that you were going to teach us about Bakesa.
Yeah, I will. Don't worry. This is just an intro. Yeah. I'm going to speak to you about Kesef. I want to speak about Yehosef. So one interpretation, you know what? I can save that. Oh, let me just say it now. The son of, so Yehosef is Joseph. And Joseph, remember, feared God's name, refused to give in to the wiles of Potiphar's wife. Remember that?
Yes.
So according to one, because of that, he merited the letter Hey from God's name, making it Yehosef, meaning Yud Hey, that God was there, which I think is really beautiful. And so now we're going to get to Keseh, as Judy requested. We're going to start from Rosh Hashanah, move to Sukkot, and get to Keseh. Okay. In Masechet Rosh Hashanah in the Talmud, we learn that not only, in Rosh Hashanah, on Rosh Hashanah, we learn that it was sung on Rosh Hashanah in the temple, but in Sukkot, Masechet Sukkot, we learn that it was also sung on the 6th day of Chol HaMoed Sukkot. That would be Hoshana Rabbah. So now we're going to start with the connection with the Keseh. One second. Okay, so now let's talk about the Keseh. Here we go. Okay, what does the word Keseh mean? Let's just go back and read that verse. Tik'u b'chodesh shofar b'keseh liyom chagenu, which we say over and over on Rosh Hashanah. Blow the shofar on the new moon, the set time, or b'keseh, whatever keseh means, liyom chagenu, of the day of our festival, meaning either the Rosh Hashanah festival or the Sukkot festival. So what does the word kesem mean?
Does that have anything to do with it? Kisei or Bekisei has a olive.
No, it does. I mean, it might be, but that's not what kesem means. Kisei is with an aleph.
Right. Is that from the word l'chaso, to cover?
Yes, exactly. Very good. A kisui is a covering. So you could say that the moon is covered because it's covered with the shadow, and you only see a sliver on the new moon every month, and also on Rosh Hashanah. And the only chag that we have that the moon is covered is Rosh Hashanah. All the other ones, it's not covered. Pesach and Sukkot start on the 15th of the month when the moon is full, not covered at all, actually. And then Shavuot is on the 6th day, which it's covered a little bit, but it certainly isn't completely covered. It's actually half covered. So you wouldn't call it. So that would be a very clear explanation about why we would say this pasuk. But there's another explanation which leads it to Sukkot. And remember in Masechet Sukkah it said that they sang this mizmor on Sukkot. So you could also say Bakese liyom chagenu, meaning the chag which is covered with light. And we know that chag is Sukkot. And why is it covered with light? Because the moon is full. So when the moon is full, it actually has a lot of light, and as if it's as if it cascades light onto the chag. So it's true for Pesach as well, but because it's adjacent to Rosh Hashanah, nobody says that it's because of Pesach. So that is the beginning of the talk about what Bakesed Liyom Chagenu. And there are those that say, wait, I have a few more things. There were those that say the shofar was blown on Sukkot, and, which by the way it is, but we don't, I think that they blew it on Hoshana Rabbah. I think that's what I'm remembering. And remember what they said was that they said this mizmor on the 6th day of Chol HaMoed. The 6th day of Chol HaMoed, Sukkot, is also called the last day of Chol HaMoed Sukkot is also called Hoshana Rabbah. And right. Hoshana Rabbah is a day when they used to blow the shofar when they did a circuit. Remember, we do 7 hakafot. So that all ties in beautifully together with Bakesed Liyom Chagenu, that Chag is called, Sukkot is called Chag in the Torah, that it is cascaded and full of light, that they blew the shofar on the 6th day. They said this on the 6th day. And here's one more. The letters Kaf, Samech, Hey, if you rearrange them.
Sukkot.
Sukkah.
Sukkah. Right.
Sukkah. The same 3 letters, Keseh and Sukkah. So there were a lot of connections for this between this pasuk, so this mizmor, which to me elevates it because it connects it with not 1 but 2 chagim. Okay. Okay, everybody good? That's mostly what I wanted to say about that pasuk. Now if we look at verse 5, that was verse 4. Verse 5 says, so it's interesting. If we remember, I said that it was 2 parts that they're parallel to each other, as we've learned from other couplets. Ki chok l'Yisraelhu, it is a statute or a chok or a law or a judging for Israel. Mishpat leElohei Yaakov, a law given by the God of Jacob. So Rabbi Dalia Mark says, quotes the Jerusalem Talmud, that the heavenly court, Mishpat leElohei Yaakov, that God will only judge us, will only convene when the lower court sanctifies the new moon. Because remember, in the previous pasuk, in pasuk Daled, it talks about Chodesh, Rosh Chodesh. So, many times we think, well, Rosh Chodesh, we now have calendars. Why do we need to sanctify the new moon, correct? But when the Beit HaMikdash, when Mashiach comes and we have another Beit HaMikdash, we still have a mitzvah, the oraita, a biblical mitzvah, to sanctify the new moon. And according to this interpretation, the Palestinian or Talmud Yerushalmi said that God will only convene God's court when we sanctify the new moon. Well, that's a more of a midrashic kind of explanation of it. Okay, let me see what I have before I get to what Rabbi Dalia Mark spoke about was that this Mizmor speaks about Beit Din and Beit Midrash. Beit Din. So this is the pasuk that speaks about the Beit Din, and the pasuk that speaks about the Beit Midrash is verse 17, that ends, that last one. So remember what we said, even though it says chelev chita means the best of the wheat, but it could also be understood as chalav. So it has here two foods, milk, and which is probably goat's milk, and dvash, which is not bees honey, but probably date honey, because that's what was in Israel at the time. So some say that this is like honey and milk that's given to infants, even though today we know that we don't give infants honey under a year, but they didn't know that then, and maybe it wasn't a problem. Maybe date honey you can give, silan, maybe just bees honey you can't give. So this reminds us that God is like a mother, that God suckles us or as if takes care of us. Another connection, it could be like the drink, the chalav is the water in the wilderness. And remember, Almei Meriva, it speaks about the waters of strife. So there's a connection between the psukim. It's poetic, but it connects that. And then the honey, if you remember, one of the ways of describing the man in the desert was that it was like honey. People remember that? I don't have the exact quote, but that's also. So this could be, and why would we be talking about the water and the man? Because the Mizmor speaks about God taking us out of Egypt. So that makes sense. The last thing she said, which is really beautiful, is that, and she quoted from Machzor Vitri, which is one of our very, very, very earliest Sidor, Machzor, anything of our tefillot written down, that when children were brought to the Talmud Torah, they were given special foods, challah with honey, eggs and fruit. They would spread a board with honey, and then to open their hearts with sweetness, that they would lick it and lick the honey, and then it would feel like something they'd want to come back for the next day to encourage. It was then little boys. Today you'd have little girls as well. There's a really, really beautiful song, Etzleinu B'Kfar Todra. I saw the first release of it in many, many, many years ago in a play that was put out in Israel. I just want to read to you some of the lyrics in English. In our village of Kfar Todra, nestled in the heart of the Atlas Mountains, they would take a child when he reached the age of 5. They would make him a crown of flowers in our village of Kfar Todra. They would place the crown on his head when he reached the age of 5. Keter brachim osim lo etzenu b'Kfar Todra. Keter barosh malbishim lo shegiya legil 5. All the children of the street would make a great celebration of him when he reached the age of 5. And then the child, the hero of the day, when he reached the age of 5 in our village of Kfar Todra, they would bring him into the synagogue. They would take a wooden board and write upon it in honey all the letters of the Hebrew alphabet from Aleph to Tab. All the letters written in honey. And they would say to him, Habibi, Habibi, my sweet one, my dear one, lick it, lakek. You can lick the honey. So the Torah upon his tongue would be sweet like the taste of honey. Etzleinu b'Kfar Todra, by us in the village of Kfar Todra. So you can see that this was such a strong tradition that they even wrote a song about it. So I'm imagining each little boy when he came the age of 5, I thought it was the age of 3, but they say the age of 5, maybe he's capable of learning letters. I mean, some can learn at age 3, but less to learn how to read at age 5. I certainly learned how to read at age 5 or 6 when I went to kindergarten. So that connects with this idea of honey. And that's why she called it, it's about Beit Din and Beit Midrash, which is beautiful because one is more about God doing din, and the other is how we give up to God our learning. Okay, ready to hear about the adding the letter Hey to Yosef's name?
Yes.
Okay. Why is there an extra letter added? The Talmudic story invites us to reflect on the relationship between language and identity. This is by a man named Daniel Sharshevsky. We have heard from him before. Okay. Against the backdrop of the call to the people, below the shofar, Tiku b'chodesh shofar, our chapter sketches the moment of the nation's birth. So that's happening right now. It's so funny. I didn't expect that. But literally this week and last week is exactly when and the next week are all the weeks that we learn about the nation's birth. It's amazing. We just read in Bo about taking the Korban Pesach, coming out of Egypt. B'shalach is crossing the Yamsuf, and Yitro is receiving the Aseret HaDibrot. So it's interesting. Remember when we read the pasuk about Yosef? What is the pasuk about Yosef? Edut b'Yosef Samo. He made in remembrance of Joseph, when he was freed from the prison to rule over Egypt and understand languages he had not known. Why language? Why is the sojourn in Egypt portrayed through the encounter with the foreign language? It seems that one of the most prominent markers of culture is its language, which is true. How do you identify a culture? It's interesting because in the Jewish, obviously we have Hebrew, but we also have Yiddish and we also have Ladino. And one more.
Yiddish.
I said Yiddish, yeah. Another one would be Aramaic. But Hebrew foremost, but these are all languages that are identified with the Jewish people. The descent into, and remember what they said, that there was an interpreter between Joseph and his brothers, which we say the interpreter was his son Menashe, but that's a midrash. But the point is they didn't think he understood why, because they didn't know that he was a Hebrew, which is interesting because the Egyptians knew he was a Hebrew, because we know that it said that they didn't break bread with him at the same table. So I'm not sure how the Egyptians knew and the brothers, but they were in a subservient role when they came. They were the underdogs, Judy.
They weren't the villains.
They were definitely not the villains. Agreed. There you go. That's a good differentiation. Well done. Okay. A cultural crucible from which the people of Israel will eventually need to emerge from Egypt. The following story touches precisely on these steps, where language and culture intersect. The story opens. This is from the Talmud Bavli, from Sota. Pharaoh's decision to appoint Joseph as viceroy. The astrologers object. How can a slave rule over us? Remember, it said he was freed. Where was he freed from? Freed from prison. Pharaoh replies, I see royal qualities in him. Because remember, he analyzed and interpreted his dream. If so, the astrologers insist he must know 70 languages. Who else do we know who we say knew 70 languages?
Rabbi Akiva? No.
Maybe, I don't know that one. No, people remember Mordechai, that's why he understood that what Big Ten and Teresh were plotting against the king. We say because he was a member of the Sanhedrin, the high court, that he knew all these languages. He had to know it, or I don't know, I guess they taught it. And that's why he understood Big Ten and Teresh was speaking in some dialect that most people didn't know. Gabriel, the angel, came and taught him 70 languages, but he couldn't master them. Well, I understand that. Then he added one letter from the name of the Holy One, blessed be he, and Joseph succeeded in learning them. And that's why it says, Edut bi Hosef Samo. That's why it adds the letter Hey. At first, Joseph struggles to learn the 70 languages. He cannot free himself from his cultural identity, from the Joseph within him. Only after an additional letter is added to his name is he able to expand in his horizons and learn other languages. The next day, every language Pharaoh spoke to him, so I guess Pharaoh knew many languages, Joseph answered back. Joseph spoke to Pharaoh in the holy tongue, and Pharaoh didn't understand him. So Joseph knew 71 languages. He knew Hebrew, and Pharaoh did not know Hebrew. Pharaoh said to him, swear to me you will not reveal this, that I don't know the holy language, right? That I don't know Hebrew, because then Joseph knows more than Pharaoh. Joseph swore. When Joseph later wished to bury, it's so beautifully, his father in Canaan, he said to Pharaoh, my father made me swear. Remember that? He said,
Yeah.
my father made Bayishbiani, that God, Yaakov made him swear that he would bury him in Canaan. Pharaoh said to him, well, then just annul the oath. So what if you swore? And Joseph said, if so, then I will also seek annulments of the oath I swore to you, that I won't reveal that I know Hebrew and you do not. A beautiful contextual connection, a midrash that just beautifully connects these words. Even though Pharaoh did not want this, he permitted Joseph to go, even though, I don't know why it's even though, as it is written, go and bury your father as he made you swear. The fact that Pharaoh could not learn the holy language highlights Hebrew as something exclusive to Israel alone, part of the intimate relationship between God and his people. No outsider may enter this space. Well, so that's interesting. Obviously, we know people who don't, obviously people know Hebrew, people who are not Jewish. When Joseph seeks to depart from Egyptian custom to leave Egypt and bury his father in the land of Israel, this cultural distinctiveness again comes to the fore. This is just such a beautiful explanation of this in the Talmud. Thus, when Pharaoh tries to prevent Joseph from going, language immediately emerges. The uniqueness that distinguishes Joseph from Egypt. That's how the Talmud reads it. In a remarkable way, the Midrash weaves together two halves of the verse. The transformation of Joseph into Yehosef, adding Hey allowed him to learn the 70 languages, and the description of hearing a foreign language. Through name and language, the Talmud constructs a story of identity. Isn't that beautiful? That is drasha worthy. Maybe one year I will teach that. How's that? Maybe that would be a beautiful teaching. I'll pocket it for next year because it's such an amazingly beautiful midrash. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to learn it. It's really gorgeous. Okay. What else am I going to teach you? Things that, okay. Yeah, please.
At the HIR, do you know a woman named Eliora Lieberman?
Yeah.
Yes, you know her brother, her late brother, Hillel. He was Niftar, or he was Neharag, defending the Kever Yosef.
Really?
Yes, I didn't know that you knew that. I thought that's very.
No, I knew that he was killed in a terror attack.
Well, that was where he was killed. Yeah, defending the Kever Yosef.
Wow.
The
People
Heb.
don't go to Kever Yosef anymore. It's too dangerous.
Right.
Wow.
No, she's quite the Giborah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%. Wow. Thank you for bringing that in. And I will tell her that when I see her next, I'll tell her that you mentioned that's very beautiful. Okay.
Concerning Kever Yosef, I recently saw a video of hundreds of Hasidim davening there. They've beautifully equipped it. There are
Oh yeah.
Lots of visits there. They still have
Now it's okay to visit there.
Well, the armored buses and the entrance is on both sides, and on the top it's very well protected. But people visit, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for. I really thought people weren't visiting it anymore. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. There's a whole discussion about Tkiya and Trua, how it is referred to in Rosh Hashanah. That didn't feel quite as interesting to me. So if you want, I can send that to you. But I want to speak about what Reb Yoel Ben Nun speaks about, because he's really very special. 1 second, let me just see if there's anything else. I don't want to miss out on anything cool that I put together. You know what? Actually, this seems more interesting. There's so many different ways that we can learn it. I tried to pick out the things that felt the most interesting. Okay. Okay. Michael Hendelovich, or Michael Michael, calls this mizmor a lament with stringed instruments. So it was interesting that he called it lament. Somebody else called it, I forgot, what was it called? Tower? No. What did he call it? He called it, Psalm of Wisdom. So he calls it a lament. Somebody else called it Psalm of Wisdom. Okay. In the beginning, so I just want to tell you, how does he look? So everybody has the Psalm except for Robert Moshe, maybe has a Psalm in front of them. He says the beginning of every, no, he doesn't. Okay. You'll just listen. It's okay. It's kol hakavod that you're listening on the bus. I hope it helps make the time pass quicker. The opening verses, remember every Psalm that we've learned has an intro. Remember that? Pretty much, I think. Everyone has some intro. And it has something about the words or phrases that identify the composer. Not always, but at least the ones we've done. David or Asaph or Bnei Korach, if you remember. The performers, the circumstances of composition. We've discussed that as well. If you think all the way back to when we learned about 130, was it, or 121? I don't remember. That it had to do with like a tfilat haderech, that it was when somebody was going on a journey. So there's something that gives a hint for what's going on. Mizmor LeTodah. This is a Psalm of Thanksgiving, so you know that that's about that. There's usually, and again, I haven't checked all 150, but in general, the first and or the second verse tells you that. The circumstances of composition, the musical instruments or ensemble, and the ritual context of its performance in the temple. 4 verses inform us that it belonged to the songs of Asaph, who was perhaps a court poet, performed by Aymin Natseach, a conductor, either Asaph or one of Asaph's descendants, on the gitit, meaning it was performed on this musical instrument called the gitit. Some understand it to be the way some of them say it has to do with a family, somebody, the gitit. Understood it. And here's another one. I don't know if I've discussed this here. What is Kiryat Gat? Have people heard of Kiryat Gat? Okay, there's also, my daughter lives in a new area in Kiryat Gat called Karmei Gat. And now I'm going to tell you what the connection is. What is a gat? A gat is a wine press.
Oh.
That is where, today I don't think they use feet, but they used to at least, and in some places maybe they still do, they use feet to actually dance on and press on the grapes. So Kiryat Gat means a kirya, or I guess that's like a little town or a little neighborhood or a little city. Like Kiryat, Kiryat, that's Kiryat Arba, they're often called that. Kiryat Gat means the city of the place where there's a wine press. Karmei Gat, as you can see, it has the same word in it, means a kerem is a vineyard. So the vineyard of the wine press. So you can see why they chose the name Karmei Gat. Everybody with me?
Yes.
There's the connection. Okay. So some people say gitit has to do with a winged instrument, not winged, a string. Thank you.
You taught us that.
String, yes. A stringed musical instrument. Or it could be the name of a family, the gitit. Or it could be to the wine press itself. The psalm may have been performed perhaps in the temple's own winery to the sound of feet treading grapes. Maybe. So we don't know, but they all are possibilities. Okay? Everybody with me?
I never knew that the Beit HaMikdash had its own winery.
Well, I don't know, but they're saying maybe because it was done, right. I agree. Who knows? But maybe it did own vineyards somewhere and it just leased it out or something. That's the first time I heard it as well. If the intention is the rhythmic sound of feet pressing grapes as part of the psalm's musical texture, this will be the earliest example of what we now call concrete music. Here's a new term for everybody. Music that incorporates sounds from the environment rather than sounds produced by traditional instruments. Like maybe they recited it with the sound of treading. Maybe there was a kind of a beat to the music. So I'm imagining what that might look like or sound like. The second verse provides dynamic instructions. The performance is to be joyful. Harninu. Rina is joyful music. A light, lively tempo, like a major mode. It is also to be festive and forceful. Hariu. So laharia means to sound the trumpet or to sound the shofar. Laharia means to lift it in sound. So this commentary is really focusing on the words and saying it's imbuing a certain feeling into this mizmor. The third verse, do you want me to read it or everybody with me on this? Are you good? Do you want me to read the verse inside? I don't know how good your Hebrew is. What he's saying is that the first few verses really set the tone. The third verse describes the vocal and instrumental ensemble, a soloist or choir, because it says, Se'u zimra, Se'u is in the plural. Se'u zimra utinu tov. Again, in the plural. You should lift your voices in song. You, plural, should play the drum or the timbrel. And there's a rhythmic accompaniment on percussion and sections of stringed instruments instructed to produce pleasing, gentle sound, a pleasant lyre with harp. Kinor na'im, na'im, na'ima, na'im is pleasant. So we're getting the feeling that there's the rhythm perhaps of the drum beat or the rhythm of the feet pressing, which I'm sure creates its own rhythm because it's easier to do a manual labor when it has a rhythm to it. I'm sure it was easier that way. But there's also beautiful, pleasant stringed accompaniment in the background. The fourth verse has the solo wind instrument, the shofar, and situates the performance in sacred times. Sound the shofar at the new moon or Rosh Hashanah, at the full moon for our festival day. And so look how beautifully this particular commentary, creates a 3D and multi-sensory experience. We're smelling the grapes. We're smelling the outdoors, where there's a scent wafting in the air as the grapes get smashed. We are seeing the colors. Maybe the feet get stained with the color of the wine or of the red grapes. The rhythmic pounding of the feet, the musical instruments. There's a solo wind instrument. There's percussion. There's stringed instruments. Is everybody imagining this with me? Because for me, it's really, really gorgeous. It's creating just such a beautiful scene. Such a rich musical ensemble is fitting, okay, for God's disappointed lament towards his non-faithful believers. There shall be no foreign gods among you. My people did not listen to my voice, so I sent them off in the stubbornness of their hearts. At the beginning of this lament, already a divine mantra repeats into the ears of the unbelievers. God returns to a moment especially dear to God, the exodus from Egypt. So bringing this in, reminding the unbelievers or those that worship other gods that God was there for us. God took us out of Egypt. I am so glad that we ended up learning this Mizmor exactly when we're reading it in the Torah. When you hear it this Shabbat, hopefully you will, or read about it, I hope that you will remember this Mizmor, or when you say it tomorrow. When the complex relationship between a chosen people chosen by God and the one leader they did not choose began, a testimony, right? They didn't choose Yosef. In Joseph, God placed, when he went over the land of Egypt, the language I did not know I heard. Okay. I just want to finish this, so beautiful. Commentators struggle with this line. What language would God not know? Is such a thing conceivable? They took into account Hebrew speakers living in Egypt thousands of years after the 70 nations spoke 70 languages. Yet once shared, who was that? Remember Bavel? The Tower of Babel? God created all these languages and they all spoke different languages and mixed them up. So we know there are many languages on earth. But is the issue really the absence of translators or the meaning of what is not being heard or listened to? When did God first hear in his world, in God's world, the phrase, I do not know? When God asked Cain, here we go, our first villain, the first shedder of human blood, born of baseless jealousy. Where is Efo Hevel Achicha? Where is your brother Hevel? And Cain, who would be protected forever from blood vengeance, the very vengeance the psalmist now implores God to enact. What did he say? I do not know. Hashomer achi anochi, am I my brother's keeper? And the answer is yes. We are all our brothers and sisters' keepers. How gorgeous was the psalm? How much fun was it to learn it? I now have the distinct honor of reading to you from Psalm songs to finish up. Sing to God in joy and strength with harps and violins, with trumpets, shofars, saxophones, and drums. Mark time, keep track of each new moon, and celebrate another chance, another month to live and grow, as Joseph did on foreign soil, knowing God was with him. Pit to prison, houseboy to viceroy. Oh, how beautiful. Thank you so much, Gaya. Pit to prison, houseboy to viceroy. Oh. Listen closely, try to hear the song of God and follow it, though you are deaf and it is dark and you are blinded by your quest for things that fade like foreign gods. God's music plays for you, and if you seek it, it is there, and if you heed it, it is sweet and can fulfill beyond desire.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. All right, my friends, thank you for attending. Thank you so much. Next week, Bezrat Hashem, we will learn the Psalm for Friday. There's a Wednesday where I won't be able to come. I'll let you know. And then we will switch after Shabbat, a beautiful way to finish. We will switch to favorite tefillot. And please come next time with any thoughts about favorite tefillot. So far, we came up with Adon Olam and Aleinu, but I would love to hear others. And we will pick enough that will last us throughout the year. Sending love to all. Have a wonderful day. Stay warm and safe.
Thank you so much.